This podcast is brought to you by AlleyRepair.com. Don't leave your skee ball machines lying around collecting dust in the basement. Let AlleyRepair.com bring those machines back to life. High quality workmanship for your skee ball playing needs. Contact AlleyRepair.com today. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Fro Life Wrestling Podcast. I'm going to sound like I'm going quick here because, let's face it, it's after 11 o'clock at night and I got to get up early to go teach tomorrow. So I'm going to give you some serious recapping, including NXT's Takeover event in San Antonio and the Royal Rumble, which I need a few minutes because I just finished watching it. And as I go through this podcast, hopefully I can decompress a little bit and give you my best review and honest feedback. But I'm going to start with 5 Star Wrestling, the dominant wrestling show on the Spike TV in the UK, just because there's a lot of people in the United States who didn't have the opportunity to see it, and it's a great show. I'm going to go there, and then hopefully I can calm down by the time I get to the Rumble. 5 Star Wrestling had their kickoff show, and it started out with a lot of talents you'd see in TNA, former WWE guys in Lucha Underground, all on one show. I'm just going to run down some results and give you some quick feedback on that show. So we got to see people like John Morrison, who's in Lucha Underground now as Johnny Mundo, come out. They had a tournament for their championship. Current champion is John Morrison, defending his title in a tournament. What's interesting about the end of the show, they announced they're going to do a 128-man tournament for John Morrison to defend his title in, which I can't wait to hear more about that. But in this particular tournament, in the first round, they had him go against Moose, who is an incredible talent from TNA. So if anybody has seen Moose and he's been pushed down your throat in TNA, this was an opportunity to see him go against somebody who you don't typically see him in the ring with. None of this Mike Bennett nonsense. Went against John Morrison, great back and forth match, tons of athleticism. Morrison picks up the victory. Second match of the tournament saw Rey Mysterio go against Nick Aldis, who's also known as Magnus when he was in Impact Wrestling. Mysterio picking up the win there, but having injury issues after the match, bum knee after getting attacked, so we would see how that would play out later in the card. The third match of the tournament saw Carlito, who I can't believe is still wrestling anywhere but the WWE. The guy somehow is putting together a living, not being in the biggest company in the world. It probably could do well having him back, but he ended up beating PJ Black, who's a Lucha Underground star right now. And in the fourth match, the closing match of the opening round of the tournament, saw Drew Galloway go against Chris Masters, who, I can't believe Chris Masters is still toiling around the independent scene and never made a way back to the WWE or anywhere else of substance. But nice to see him get out there. Galloway picking up the win over Chris Masters. In the semifinals of the tournament, Mysterio came out heavily bandaged knee, had a great classic match like ones he had years ago against Carlito, picks up the win over Carlito. And John Morrison, match of the night possibly. John Morrison going over Drew Galloway clean in a great match between the two. Morrison, in my opinion, one of the most underused and underappreciated stars that WWE ever had. I'm glad to see, now that he's in Lucha Underground and in some of these independent places, that he's getting a little more respect for his quality of match. Great match. Setting up a final between Morrison and Mysterio, which could have been perfect. The whole show was really heavily rushed, because they had such a limited time, and it was very obvious the production wasn't ready for the time constraints. But at the end of the day, Morrison goes over Mysterio, and that sounds great, except that they started playing Morrison's music before the match had actually ended, so it gave away the winner before the winner actually won the match. Kind of messed up. So if you have not had an opportunity to find that either online, YouTube, or wherever you would find those matches from, check it out sometime. Good stuff. 5 Star Wrestling. Up-and-coming company. Looks like they've got some good things planned for the future. Let's move on to Saturday night Takeover in San Antonio for NXT. Again, we'll run down the card in brief because I want to spend as much time as I can on the Rumble. Opening match, Ty Dillinger against Eric Young. Great back and forth match. One of those typical ones where Eric Young has sanity all around the ring with him, and Dillinger ends up succumbing to these vast numbers of people everywhere and eventually loses the match to Eric Young. I like that because Dillinger obviously is trying to push for a main event or a main roster move, whereas Eric Young's going to be relied on heavily to stay behind and help NXT. So I'm fine with the finish of the match. Great match though, back and forth. Great way to kick off the show. Roderick Strong coming out and beating Mr. Almas. I'm not a big fan of his anyways. I mean, he's talented, don't get me wrong. But Roderick Strong is a former Ring of Honor champion. He's a top-tier talent. And I just feel like this was a match that really was just filler. Roderick Strong belongs in the main event picture with the Bobby Roodes and other people of the world. So hopefully they elevate him quickly and put him in those spots. I loved the DIY versus Authors of Pain match. Ciampa and Gargano looked like they had it won several times. A lot of back and forth. Started the match with the Authors of Pain thoroughly obliterating them. The tide turns. Lots of hot tags in and out. Close near finishes. The Authors of Pain pick up the win and take the tag team titles, the NXT championships, in a great match. I actually thought this was potentially the match of the night. Great match. And Authors of Pain, I was happy to see they didn't just push their big brutality. They actually showed some vulnerability by letting DIY get in some great spots. Asuka versus Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, and Nikki Cross in that 4-woman for the NXT Women's Championship match. Again, I thought this was going to be an opportunity for them to transition the Women's Championship off of Asuka and put it under one of the others without Asuka actually being pinned. I was actually shocked to see Asuka win the match. I'm happy for that. It lends some more credibility to that championship, and she's now the longest runner, has been for a little while now, the longest running NXT Women's Champion. But now I don't know who they put her against to ever take the title off her. They've built her up to be pretty much unstoppable. So, we'll see how that plays out in the future. And then Shinsuke Nakamura versus Bobby Roode. Match of the year candidate, automatically. Great talent between the two of these guys. I don't know that I've ever seen them wrestle before, so this was an interesting pairing. Great match, back and forth. Bobby Roode comes out the winner and takes the NXT title, which, as a fan of the storylines and the build of different promotions and shows and things like that for my whole life, I really thought this was a way to get the title off of Nakamura and get him ready for tonight's pay-per-view at the Royal Rumble. I really thought we were going to see Shinsuke Nakamura, as well as other people, and I'll get into that in a few moments. But in the end, Bobby Roode goes over. He looked great in the ring, putting that belt on. Of course, it was a little crooked when they took the photos of him and posted it on the World Wrestling Entertainment's Twitter feed, but whatever. I always find it funny when that happens. Somebody wins a championship and puts the belt on a little crooked. Kind of makes him look stupid for all of history, but at the end of the day, congratulations to Bobby Roode. He deserves it. Should have been there sooner than he already was. Now, the Royal Rumble. We'll start with we'll go match to match, and then we'll get to the big one at the end. Sasha Banks, Nia Jax. I didn't see this match going in Sasha's way anyways. Nia Jax is absolutely on a collision course with the Women's Championship. It's just a matter of time. When you got this whole thing with Charlotte and Bayley going on, I don't see how she factors in unless it's at WrestleMania in a fatal 4-way between the 4 women. We'll see. Tonight, Nia Jax goes over Sasha Banks. Good match. It's kind of what you expected. Cesaro and Sheamus dropped the Raw Tag Team Championship to Gallows and Anderson. It's long overdue, not because Cesaro and Sheamus had the belts for so long. It's nothing to do with their title reign, but it has more to do with Gallows and Anderson not having a title reign their first year in the company. That would have been a travesty. So thankfully they got the titles now and didn't have to wait any longer. That's a team that, they share this honor of being WWE champions and also having been IWGP Tag Team Champions, which has only been done before by the Steiner brothers in... they held the IWGP belts back when they were in the WCW, and then once again when they left WCW, and the Dudley Boys, who did it when they were with TNA. They won the IWGP belts, and those are the only other two teams who've won a WWE Tag Team Championship and the IWGP Tag title. So congratulations to Gallows and Anderson, long overdue. They had a 6-woman tag team match. For me, personally, Snorefest, who cares? I mean, I know they're trying to pull this whole women's revolution, but at the end of the day, it was 6 girls out there to fill time, and none of them really got to showcase much of anything other than, at the end of the match, seeing the good guys come out on top, which kind of shocked me since Mickie James is the fresh return to the company. You'd think they'd put her over whatever team she's on, and instead they have the SmackDown Women's Champion, the new returner, both fall to... The baby faces. It just kind of shocked me a little bit. So, to the main card, and I'll go out of order a little bit just by, in my opinion, the order of importance. Neville takes the Cruiserweight title from Rich Swann in, for me, one of the best matches of the night, best matches of the weekend. Great match, really believable. Swann can sell so well, and Neville played a great heel role in this match because he attacked body parts. It was like watching the old Andersons go at it. You find a body part, take that body part apart, and then at the end getting the submission victory. It's cool ending for Neville. It's enough of the Red Arrow to finish every match. This was much better. Charlotte versus Bayley went the way we expected it to. Charlotte retains the title because if she loses it now, it doesn't build anything for WrestleMania. You kind of had a feeling that was going to be the way it was going to go. Match could have been better. I didn't think they gave them enough time. I think they gave other people too much time. They should have given Charlotte and Bayley a little more time. But at the end of the day, Charlotte had to retain here because it's her 16th pay-per-view appearance defending the championship that she's undefeated to match the number, at least, of her father's number of championship wins, since obviously they're not going to give her the title 16 times, because I can't imagine her staying in wrestling long enough to do that. They seem to push the women out a lot faster than they do the men. So this was an interesting numerical play with her father's record to close out her match the way they did. So no surprises there. Bayley will get her shot. I'm sure she'll wear the title at some point, but just not yet. The Reigns versus Owens match. I expected more from Jericho. I expected him to get out of the cage somehow and somehow interject himself in the match. Other than dropping a pair of brass knuckles to the ring, he really didn't do too much. I expect him to spit on him from the cage or something of some kind of excitement, but whatever. Great spots here. Kevin Owens doing the frog splash off the turnbuckle was awesome. There's a couple times it looked like it was going to be obvious where they were going to give Owens the win when they set the table up in the corner, and it looked like Reigns was going to spear him into the table. I thought that he was going to move, Reigns would crash through the table, and then he'd pop up powerbomb win, and that didn't happen. The Strowman interference is confusing to me because of what happened later in the show. I guess they're building this Reigns and Strowman thing for Fastlane potentially, but I think that later in the show, it set up Reigns for a different feud, so we'll get there in a little bit. At the end of the day, good match. Not a 5-star match, but a good match. I'll give it 3.5 out of 5. Styles and Cena, that for me was a 5-star match on this card. They stole the show. They did an amazing job. Tons of high spots, back and forth, each other's finishers, all kinds of craziness, Styles clashes, attitude adjustments, STFUs, the flying forearms, everything. The AA off the ropes and a kick out, this was just amazing. And seeing Cena do the stereo, the two attitude adjustments in a row with the flipping rolling over thing to pick him up for the second one was kind of weird, but I love the match. I thought the match was easily, if they would have ended the pay-per-view right there and it was not a Royal Rumble, I would have thought the whole pay-per-view was worth it because of that match alone. Let's move on to the Rumble. Wow. Now that I've said all that, I can actually calm down a little bit because I was having a moment there with the Rumble. Because the number one thing that irritates me about this Rumble is the complete lack of surprise entrance. Where was Bobby Roode? Where was Samoa Joe? Where was Shinsuke Nakamura? Some of the NXT guys belonged in there, not just Ty Dillinger at number 10. I did tell you guys about the 10 thing yesterday. I get that. But there should have been at least, at minimum, a Samoa Joe appearance. Since he wasn't on TakeOver's pay-per-view, he should have been at this. So that was very disappointing. No Finn Balor like everybody thought he'd be back. There's several people. Obviously no Kenny Omega. We didn't expect him. Not even a Rey Mysterio, since Conan was implying Mysterio might be coming back. Thorough letdown with the surprises. Ty Dillinger was great. I actually liked his debut in the Rumble. But otherwise, total letdown when it comes to the surprises. The Rumble match itself, loved the way they booked a good chunk of it. And I know there's some people who don't like some of it, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, but the reality is this. Las Vegas has betting odds on just about every combination and configuration of this Rumble you can think of, and one of the big bets was Braun Strowman was going to throw the most people out. He threw 7 people out, and Vegas even had odds of Braun Strowman versus the entire rest of the roster for who anybody would beat him. You could take that bet. Braun will get the most, or somebody else, any of the other 29. And you just knew Braun was going to throw the most out. When he threw 7 out and then got eliminated by Baron Corbin of all people, that was a shock to me. I didn't expect it that soon. I really would have liked to see the Braun Strowman Brock Lesnar face off again. That didn't happen. Braun goes out first shock of the match for me. The rest of it, whatever. I actually thought Jericho was going to hide under the ring the whole time and pop out at the end, but whatever. It's fine. And I really felt like they should have let him break Mysterio's all-time record for the most time in the Rumble, because he was already in for an hour. Just give him the extra 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, just so he could break that record. Put it on somebody, Jericho, who's been a little more loyal to the company in the last few years and who earned it this past year. That being said, loved the Brock Lesnar appearance right up until he stopped throwing people out. He threw the first 2 people out in moments, threw a third out eventually, and then Goldberg comes out. And this is what we've been waiting for. And the reality is, they have Goldberg pretty much wipe the floor with him again. And it's like, look, I get it the last time Goldberg's been out of the ring a long time at the Survivor Series. You put him over in a minute 26 or whatever. I get that. But at the end of the day, people now have paid for 2 pay-per-views targeting Brock and Goldberg for a marquee moment in a pay-per-view, and they didn't get it either time. They got 2 quick spear situations and throw out in the Royal Rumble, and it's ridiculous. So that part actually annoys me. And here's the problem. As much as I'm annoyed at how it went down, I feel like it was necessary to go down, because a lot of people were starting to shift their focus away from Brock and Goldberg at Mania to other potential matchups, myself included. And doing it this way makes Brock really angry, gives them a lead into their Mania rubber match, and at the same time, the little soiree with The Undertaker coming out and him getting face to face with Goldberg, and then him throwing Goldberg out. I think that was important. I didn't like it, but I thought it was important, because who else is going to throw these big monsters out who are the favorites to win? They have to throw each other out. I had one of my most loyal listeners texted me as soon as this went over and told me they would have loved to have seen Brock and Goldberg and The Undertaker be the final 3 and have their square off in the ring just like Monday night and finish the Rumble that way. I would have loved to see that too, but the problem is that the booking has a great idea for what they want to do for the main event of Mania, and we'll get to that at the end. So, the elimination of Brock, surprising the way it went down, but understandable. The elimination of Goldberg, the same thing. The elimination of The Undertaker, a little more shocking to me. But then when I thought about it, and this is part of why I needed to decompress, when Roman Reigns walks out at number 30 and people were booing, it's because they weren't just booing because it was Reigns. They were also booing because they were expecting somebody to return. I think Finn Balor was the number one thought that he was going to come back, and here he didn't show up at all. And here you get Reigns, who's been crammed down your throat for the last 3 years. But when he came out and he eliminates The Undertaker, that's the match. Now you can't convince me it's going to be Braun Strowman and The Undertaker. You can't convince me it's going to be anybody in The Undertaker except for Roman Reigns. And I love the pairing. I'm looking forward to it. Instantly, I've got some energy for the WrestleMania card, because I actually like the Roman Reigns Undertaker thing if they go that direction. If they don't, they screwed up the Rumble for no reason. Reigns getting eliminated. I didn't like the very end of the match. I thought Jericho should have gotten his hour and 3 minutes to break the record. That's the first thing. I'm happy to see him not win just because of the way they did it. I think now you'll see Kevin Owens cost him the U.S. title, and that'll lead to them two getting together. But after that, I didn't really appreciate the way that Bray Wyatt got eliminated. I thought there should have been a little more play on position there, with Bray throwing Roman Reigns out and maybe Randy Orton dumping Bray out and then going for Roman Reigns eventually, just to get some kind of tension between the Wyatt family, but they didn't even do that. The highlight of the Wyatt family for the night for me was Luke Harper turning on the Wyatt family. I would have loved to see him hit that Sister Abigail. He would have established himself, and I would have loved to have seen him throw Bray out. Bray didn't have to be in the ring for Randy Orton to win the match. Whatever. It is what it is. Seeing Randy Orton defeat Roman Reigns made everybody else happy that Reigns didn't win. I don't think they were cheering because Orton won. They were cheering because Reigns didn't, which is a sad thing for Orton, because as long as Orton's been there, he's still pretty young, and he deserved the win. I mean, at the end of the day, he won in 2009, but it has been quite a while since Orton's done anything of substance. This was his opportunity. I'm happy for him. And for those who are upset about about Orton winning, at the end of the day, it's real simple. You got to split up the Wyatt family. Orton wins here, he's guaranteed WrestleMania. At the Fastlane pay-per-view, you're going to see Bray Wyatt take the World Championship from John Cena, and you're going to see Bray Wyatt against Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And you know what? Bray Wyatt deserves a title run. I actually hope Orton doesn't win it from him at Mania, and I'd like to see Bray have a nice long run with it. We'll see how things play out in the coming months, but that's where I see this at. So, overall, pay-per-view was amazing. The lack of the surprise entrance sucks, but whatever, it is what it is. And all the psychology of the booking of the match makes sense. So, for those who love the show, congratulations, you got your money's worth. For those who hated the show, you were expecting way too much right now. They need to set up storylines for the future, and I'm glad they did some future booking. I just wish it wasn't so predictable. So, that we'll see what happens in the coming weeks and see how this all impacts WrestleMania. That's all the time we have for this episode, but check back with us in episode 13, where we're going to cover all the happenings from Monday Night Raw, SmackDown. We'll get reactions to what's going on, and we'll go from there. Alright, special thanks go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects used in today's show. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games and bring some fun and excitement back to family game night. Go to www.thegamecrafter.com/sketchypeople to pick up your copy today. To the U.S. News & World Report Best Colleges 2017, available now at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. To AlleyRepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade needs. And to A&B Education of Lansdale, bringing intercultural education to talented students from around the world. We want to thank you for listening to today's podcast, and we encourage you to go to our website at www.frolifeplanning.com to learn more about what Mr. Fro can do for you and your aspirations for higher education. Remember, Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with me tonight after the Royal Rumble, and I look forward to talking to you guys more after Raw and SmackDown later this week. Take care, everybody, and have a great evening.